Well, welcome. It is Thursday night. We are on the internet. We are broadcasting live on the Facebook, on the Twitter, and on the YouTube, wherever you're watching. It's great to be able to have you here. We have a wonderful guest tonight. First, Brian Beatty. Brian, hello. Look at this. We are in rustic wood background land. This is,
how have we not found it before? Betsy's already excited. How have we not seen this before?
No, this is right there in Betsy's world. This is right in your cow's wheelhouse right here.
She's whispering into my ear. She's so happy.
Now, is she either is she going to be her output turned into cheese, or is she going to be a steak? Which is she?
Totally cheese. I wanted to keep her around a long time.
Cheese cow, not steak cow. Steve Straza is joining us tonight. Steve, you see Brian's little friend up there.
Indeed, I do.
Like steak, right? Like she would be. Her whole thing. It's steak, right?
It will become steak. It should become steak. It's meant to be steak.
I'm a vegetarian, so I won't be eating any meat.
Ooh. Yes. No. Yeah. I believe that. Like I believe that I'm not drinking any coffee past 7 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Hey, I've got mine here too. Thanks for reminding me. I had it behind me. Cheers.
I got this mug from our friend Caitlin Braun. Caitlin, right. our lovely loyal Freedom House folk. She made me a mug. Love God, love people, and the rest is gravy. I said this as a joke for many years, and then she turned it into a mug. So now it's a real thing. Nice. Steve, once it's a mug, it's an actual thing, right?
That's historic. I can't think of another word for it. Obviously that's something that's going on your tombstone.
Yes.
Possibly
Phil says he's offended. He's a vegan.
I told Phil last week that I'm not listening to him until he gets a new picture. I don't even know who that man is you put up there.
I'm not sure he knows how to change the picture. I'm not entirely sure.
I shouldn't say that. Phil was being very pastoral this week. He reached out to me and asked how I was doing.
Excellent.
That's good. That's good. That's important.
Every member's a minister, David.
That's right. That's right. Hey, listen, Steve Straza is joining us tonight, and Brian, and we've been having a good week. We've been part of the Transform Our World conference, the global conference. Again, I think I still have a picture. Look at that. Booyaka. Look at that. So we've been doing our global conference with the Transform Our World folks the last day and a half or so, I guess. Actually, I guess a day. So we started last night. And it's been great. We've had a great time, and it's been a much shorter commute this time, Brian. You and I haven't had to fly anywhere, so that's it's shorter at least. Like better leg room in your den and my den than on the airplane for sure.
Yeah, the commute was kitchen to den to living room, depending on where the best place was to sit and watch.
It's the most COVID conference ever.
Tomorrow, though, we're involved, so we'll see how that goes.
Steve, I remember years ago when we were doing our trips out to the Dream Center, and you've got a picture. I think, did you go out with Haley years ago? And there's this picture with you with like a snake around your neck on the beach out there, something like that. Was that a thing?
That was correct. There was a gent there, a little bit of a shifty looking gent with a snake. And for some reason, nobody else from the team wanted to pick up the snake. I don't know what it was. And I just went over to him and said, "How much?" And he was like, $5. I'm like, "Bring it on." And the next thing I know,
Steve had a pillow around his neck.
It's true. I was doing my best Alice Cooper imitation, and it was quite a laugh. But
speaking of Alice, you shared a cool picture on Facebook this week. Talk about that.
I did. Yeah, Alice, who's fairly famous. A lot of people probably don't know because of his stage persona that he is a practicing Christian. And he actually, we had a picture of him serving food at a soup kitchen. And it was hysterical because none of the younger kids who were walking through the line had any idea who he was. So
one of the homeless men are serving me. Why is that? We had that at one of our concerts. I'm not going to say who it was, but we had that at one of our concerts we ran a few years ago. People thought the artist was one of the homeless.
Milwaukee or the Good Land. That's Alice Cooper Wayne's World moment right there.
It's true.
Well, listen,
it's true.
Listen, we had a wonderful Sunday, and it's been great to be a part of what's going on both in Brantford and around the world. Nikki Straza, Steve, are you familiar with Nikki's work?
Yeah, vaguely, yeah.
she's in your house. She's the one that you sleep beside there every single night. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. She spoke on Sunday and did a wonderful job, and we're going to chat a little bit about that tonight. And she asked a few questions that we've sort of brought up at small group throughout the week, and some of it is bannered under the idea of relationship and why relationship is so important to God. And well, let's just be honest. Sometimes as dudes, we may push this thing aside because we want to be able to get stuff done. But guys, what does God think about relationships? Why are relationships so important to God?
You want to go, Steve, or you want to go?
Yeah, I'll go first. I was reading a really good article this week about the prophetic of all things, and one of the points that the Jen who was writing brought up was that no matter what gift it is that we're using, we see in part and we know in part, and I think that verse right there is one of the biggest reasons why God is so big on relationship, is because there are things that Dave's going to see. There are things that Brian's going to see that I'm going to miss. And when we work together, we just get a bigger picture. Love that.
Yeah. The analogy Nikki was using on Sunday that she came off of was out of First Peter, I think, about how we're all living stones being built into a spiritual house. So for the backdrop, we'll say we're living pieces of wood being made into a cabin. How's that?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
But that there is a
smooth.
Thanks. See what I did there? But there is a need to work on relationship, and I think one of the biggest things I've found over the years is that nothing good comes out of bad relationship. You can't expect to have anything really good that lasts a long time that relationship hasn't built. So right. I would say marriage or church or business, if there's something wonky in relationships, the whole thing feels wonky. So, and the opposite. So it's really important.
It's interesting. Today I was participating in the TOW Global Conference, and having the chance to be able to meet some of these folks over the years. Today, when if you're American, it's easier to travel to America right now because of the COVID world. So there's some of the different folks in the States that have to actually travel to this place, and they're doing their stuff up on the stage there. And I'm sitting here in Canada, obviously not allowed to go, but I'm texting these guys, great job. And they're giving me the rest of the story that's happening. They get like 10 minutes to talk on the stage, and it's neat, right? Because you spend time in proximity with people and you start to get to know the rest of the story, right? Like that was that Paul Harvey that used to do that on the radio, the rest of the story, right? Like that's the stuff that's interesting, right? Because you hear some of the front stuff with people, but it's the rest of the story that kind of gives context and gives meaning to the things that happen in the world, and that only happens with relationship, right?
Yeah, I was. I think I shared this maybe a week or two ago on our one church weekly prayer, but I'd heard a few years ago a statement about nothing good happens without good relationship, and that everyone you meet knows something you don't, and you need to mine for it. And that was another point Nikki brought up on Sunday, was mining for the gold, that everyone you're meeting every day has something that you need and that you don't know.
That's good. Speaking of mining, I know when I'm chatting with guys from work and stuff, the more you get to know them and the more you just chat with them about everyday things, that's kind of how you find out what the needs in their lives are as well. The areas that are hurt or maybe that they're struggling with is only through just talking every day and getting to know them better.
Yeah.
Steve might be jumping ahead.
Kyle says, "What did I miss?" We'll go back when we're done. Listen to it. It was really, really good. Okay, so the second question that we threw out to small groups was, what stops us from pursuing relationship with people? What actually stops us?
Hurt.
Yes.
Plain and simple. Relationships that have gone bad because everybody's had one. And when it happens once, you don't ever want it to happen again. And so people start distancing themselves.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think the need to know how important it is, but maybe today the biggest thing is people aren't really good at speaking well. So when you talk about politics or anything controversial, things are way more ostracized than they used to be, I think. And so it's hard to have those discussions. Katy Perry got in trouble this week for wanting to make up with her parents over the election, and people hate her for it. What do you mean?
Oh my gosh! Wow.
So her parents are very conservative Baptist, Pentecostal preachers actually, and so over the election, she reached out to her parents, and relatives go, "Hey, the election's over. Let's get along." And apparently, some of the lefties didn't like it at all. Babylon B. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
I kissed a conservative and I liked it.
Yep. And now I know the rest of the story.
That is the rest of the story right there.
One of the things that I appreciated this past 24 hours about our friend Ed Silvoso was how he spoke about this very, very strange time in North America, right? Like one of the things he said, he goes, we need to learn how to win, and we also need to know how to lose. And he talked about the necessity of being peacemakers during this time, right? Like that is a relational risk, right? Like it's not hard to just say your opinion. It's a little bit harder to be a peacemaker and to be able to be a bridge builder. But I've found, at least, it can actually instigate some really, really neat relationships when you step out and be who God actually wants you to be in society relationally. I think it sort of smokes out some good relationships, the kind of keeper relationships that you really want in life.
I think the people that we remember the most and are still good friends are those that you've had great disagreements with and are still good friends, because because you really don't know how good a friend you are with somebody until you have a good disagreement. Up until then, that's true. I used to say I used to say that fair weather friends are okay, but go through a storm and you'll know whether you still have a friend, right? There's a whole story to that I won't get into because it's long and probably would name names that would be wrong.
But all three of us in this chat have agreed with one another at different times and have disagreed with one another at different times. And there's been different combinations of us that have agreed and disagreed with one another at different times, right?
No, we haven't.
Over the last 20 years, and yet we're all still here with this lovely wooden backdrop, right? Like it's important to be able to kind of think about long term when it comes to relationships and things. So the number 3 question was, what justifications do we make that keep us going about tasks for the kingdom instead of building people in the kingdom? And that can be tough, right? Because all three of us in this little room, we want to see things happen, right? Like we're ambitious people. We want to see stuff happen. We want to see stuff happen in our lives and our families and our ministries and things, right? But relationships are continually the important thing, right? So what kind of things do we get stuck on when it comes to doing instead of like being with one another?
Well, I think the big danger of being a somebody who's driven to do stuff and you want to see things happen, you're a workhorse, for lack of a better term, is if you're not careful, you can use people, and that's an instant relationship killer. When people feel like they're just being drawn in so that they can fill a space or whatever. Relationship needs to take, just like grace needs to precede truth, relationship needs to precede the work that we're doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Good word.
This is probably my biggest issue. Like, I'm a bit of a driven person, and so I always I always get the reminder from the Lord that you use stuff and you love people, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And you can so the word there you used, Dave, was justify, but you can rationalize why you run ahead, right? Because, well, I'm doing it for the Lord, so it's got to get done. It's got to get done now. One of the phrases that I've used and passed on to a bunch of people was actually a phrase that was given to JFK when he became the president, and it was, okay, Mr. President, slowly through the crowd, because people know where you see them, right? And so I've used that, and I've handed that off to many people through the years because you do have to get stuff done. You do have to work, but if the people feel that you're not there and that they're not important, it's a bit of a write-off, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, sure. And I'm sure she won't mind us sharing the story, but recently, inside Freedom House context, that's something that you shared with our friend Aaron, who was on staff at Freedom House. And when Aaron came on staff, and again, if I'm sharing out of school, Aaron, please forgive me. But during the time when she came on staff at Freedom House, and we're like, you got to get Frosty Fest done, we got to get this stuff done. The slowly through the crowd thing was something that you shared with her, and it's stuff over the years that she's like, oh, I get it now. It's slowly through the crowd. It's remember the people. And she's become an incredible encourager of people. And it's less about the events that's happening. And even as we're spending our last day with the Transform World Global Community, we're listening to people in the States that are having different, states and around the world. Our friends in the UK, Tim Dunnett and Ken Gott, these guys have not been in church for since March. They haven't been back in church. And there are some places in the States where they actually are, excuse me, but there's an entirely different context, obviously, for church that all of us have been dealing with since the Corona thing hit, and the idea that people are more important than the structure that has been in place for years and years and years has never ever been more important. That people matter, right?
Yeah. I think the way Nikki shared it on Sunday was so good when she talked about introverts and extroverts, because introverts kind of, if I can get out of having any relationship, that would be great. But she said her challenge was, as an extrovert, she chose to have very shallow relationships, which didn't help either, right? So I thought the way she talked about that and was vulnerable about that was really important, because no matter who you are, what your makeup is, there's still a challenge in it about how you're going to come and make relationships important.
Mm. Yeah, I think it kind of messed her up, going back to the days when we first got married, because she was extremely extroverted, probably more so then. But like,
Say that again?
I said,
no,
yeah, more so.
Wow.
She was messed up by the fact that I had a small circle that I was really, really close with. And, we were having a discussion one night, and she kind of said to me, she said, I'm jealous of your friendships. And I was like, pardon? You have 1 million friends. And she's like, yeah, but I'm really not very close with any of them. And so I do consider myself to be an introvert to some degree. But, always it's important to keep a posse, that's close with you and knows who you are. So.
Word.
Okay, so let me throw out one more question. We've got a few others, but I'll throw out one more. Why is practicing relationship building skills with our church family so important? And I think we've touched on a little bit of this, but especially in light of where we're at in the church world, we're gathering together, but it's only a fraction of the actual church family that calls Freedom House home. Are actually gathering on Sunday for a myriad of reasons. But why is practicing, especially right now, relationship building skills with our Freedom House church family this important?
I think the verse that comes to mind from it's not a verse. Yeah. Wow. That was great. But they will know that you're Christians by your love and not your theology and not your building or anything else. And I think that, dare I say, as white people, can I say that? I think we are really doing relationships terribly in our culture. Just the Katy Perry example. How awful is that people would rather see this family divided because of politics? So I think our example of how we treat each other as Christians couldn't be more timely. It couldn't be more important, considering the state that our culture is in right now.
Yeah, you're right. I think on your point, Dave, about the challenge now is that you've actually got to go out of your way and get a little bit creative to maintain relationship. Like I know that we sit in our staff meetings on Tuesday and go, how do we do this well so it doesn't feel contrived, but we're still reaching out to people and engaging with them. But it really is important now to find out how people are doing and what's happening in their lives and what do you need, how do we help? And I think if you go deeper than that, it's that again, the point Nikki made about digging for the gold, because as friends and as fellow Christians, our goal with them is to find out what God put in them so it can get brought out in terms of destiny, right?
Yeah. And because we're not actually seeing each other very much, right? Like, and so I actually sent Steve a message last week, and we're like, because Steve and I chat like almost every Sunday normally, and we're like, what movies are you watching? What's going on in your political life, right? And so like we shoot back and forth, but because of COVID world, we just haven't seen each other that much. And I'm like, and this past Sunday when Nikki spoke, I'm like, shoot, I haven't seen Steve that much in a long time. So I'm like, I should let's get together. And so Steve and I are going out, and we're gonna hang out and talk about movies and politics and Bruce Springsteen's latest album. And that's why you're not coming, Brian, because I'm really not that interested in your criticism of Bruce's.
I know I've already been
Bruce's
in a meeting with you in a Springsteen night that I got
yeah, you're not invited anyway. So you're of no
he wants
interest.
to talk. He wants to talk about Dolly Parton. That's what he wants to talk about.
But really, right? Like, so as we look at Freedom House, I think it's important to be able to stop and think and go, if you're a part of our house, who haven't you seen in a while, right? Like who haven't you seen and had your interaction with and said, hey, let's iron sharpen iron a little bit, right? Like that's part of what being a house is. And it's not that we can't do this in smaller segments. Like we can do this in smaller segments. And at the TOW conference this past 24 hours and next couple days that we're at, it's been all about the things that we've been talking about all summer, that we're the ecclesia, that we are the ecclesia, right? Like our homes are the church, right? Like we can function like this and should function like this COVID or no COVID. So I guess to me, our challenge is find somebody who you haven't seen and hang out with them. Go sit in your porch, go sit in your lawn, go out for a coffee, right? Like we can do this and we should do this.
Yeah. I think the upside for us, I would say us as Freedom House, is that the message of ecclesia and the message of every member's a minister has been baked into the bread we've made for 17 years, right? So, so I know a lot of pastors that are having a really hard time with this, and their churches are giving them a hard time. It's like, why aren't you calling me? It's like, well, I think Freedom House knows that they're supposed to call each other. Not that we don't. Yeah. It doesn't negate the job that we have, but it really is the Christian's job to be in relationship. So I think we've done this quite well, to be honest, from as I'm listening to different parts of the church, right?
Yeah, it's true. The people who are there at the front of the room are usually very busy, and it's sad that we have so many Christians that seem to think that it's their job to sit there once a week and nod and smile and maybe if they're feeling daring, raise a hand during worship, and then the rest of the week it's business as usual. You guys, leading a church, you have to have a vision for the church, and everybody who's sitting in the pew on Sunday needs to have a vision for their life and for what they're going to do with their own faith, how they're going to make it function. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. Well, guys, this was a wonderful chat. Hang on, one more comment. Got to go with one of my church friends from one of the local churches due to illness. So, Peter, we just pray for you, buddy. We thank you for your joining us tonight. We pray for you. We just pray God's comfort on you in Jesus' name. Thanks, Peter, for throwing that out there.
Yeah.
So, find somebody at Freedom House. We're going to talk a little bit more this Sunday about a prayer initiative that's coming up in the next number of months, where we're going to encourage people to pray for one another. And it's going to be great. Phil Murray says, if you love me, Steve, you would have dropped off a burger from the works for me. Well,
that's like when Jesus said, if you love me, you'd feed my sheep, when Jesus talked to Peter. So I think it is a word from the Lord, Steve.
Phil, if you're out there, it was in my heart, and it almost made it there. It almost made it there. So,
but he ate it on the way to your house. So
yeah, it's gone though. It's gone. Well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight for a little bit. We appreciate you hanging out on Freedom House TV, and we've had a lovely evening, and we'll see you very soon, hopefully Sunday. If you're coming on Sunday, make sure that you register on freedomhouse.ca so we know you're coming. We've got, you're coming?
Yeah.
Ah, cool. That's neat. Have a great night, everybody.